As you get older, you realize how expensive it is just to live. I remember turning 16 and getting my hands on a driver's license. All I thought about was tearing down the road in my imaginary convertible, wind blowing through my hair. I didn't think about the fact that there was insurance to pay for, registration to pay for, inspections to pay for. I mean, I hardly even registered that I'd have to pay for petrol. But one thing surprised me the most when I moved to London. I had to pay for parking. As the saying goes, nothing is really free. When it comes to parking spaces in big cities, that is incredibly true. There are even parking spaces that have sold for almost $1 million. Today, we're going to take a look at the most expensive parking spots on Earth and see exactly why people would spend the cost of a house on a slab of concrete. General Motors Building, $316,800. The Big Apple, home of Times Square, Broadway, fantastic pizza, historic buildings, and some crazy expensive parking spaces. The General Motors Building, which is one of the biggest buildings in New York City, taking up an entire block, has a parking space that costs $316,800 per year. The building is 50 stories and houses dozens of offices and retail spaces. It might be hard to imagine an office building with so many people working in it having such an expensive parking space, but there is a reason behind it. The building was built back in 1968 when a lot less people took cars to work, and the parking spaces have not been updated since, meaning they're in high demand. The General Motors Building aside, parking in New York in general is a huge expense. On average, 2-hour parking will run you $48.68. Parking for the whole day costs around $61.39, and parking for the month, well, you might need to pick up a side hustle, because the average cost for a monthly parking spot in New York is $895.27. Back Bay, Boston, $560,000. Good old Boston is a city that is not known for being driver-friendly. The term masshole is thrown around pretty freely, and to be fair, it's not their fault. The city of Boston have several one-way roads that are far too narrow, outdated infrastructure, and in general, roads that weren't made to withstand modern-day cars. Well, it's a historic city. What can you do? Because of this, parking is incredibly hard to come by. Monthly parking runs somewhere between $400 and $550. And in terms of parking, you're going to want something close to your home or close to your job. This is a city where you have to shovel snow after your car, after all. And no one wants to have to run down the icy street in a snowstorm looking for where they street parked their car. One of the most expensive streets of Boston is Commonwealth Avenue. In 2009, a parking space at 48 Commonwealth Avenue sold for $300,000. 2 tandem spots sold for $200,000 a few years later. But the most expensive on the street, and one of the most expensive in the world, is found at 298 Commonwealth Avenue. A tandem parking spot went to auction, and the numbers climbed faster than anyone could imagine. Bidding started at $42,000, and within 15 minutes, a bid of $560,000 was the winner. $560,000 is a lot for a parking spot. It's hard to imagine, especially when you consider the average price of a single-family home in Massachusetts is only $313,000. Almost half the price of the parking spot. You might expect the spot to be in a nice garage, maybe with heated flooring or a built-in car cleaner. Well, unfortunately, that's far from the truth. The parking space is simple asphalt beside a telephone pole in a back alley. Hong Kong, $660,000. In terms of expensive cities, Hong Kong tops the list. The average cost of parking in the city is $34 for a daily rate, $17.33 for 2 hours. Monthly parking hovers somewhere between $350 and $450, which certainly isn't ideal. This is for many reasons, including the increased cost of living and the shrinking available space in Hong Kong. Housing increases in price nearly every year, along with the cost of parking. Back in 2017, Kwon Wai Ming shelled out $660,000 for a single parking space just outside the city center. The space is 188 square feet and is located on the first floor of a luxury apartment complex. And Kwon was just adding to his collection. He owns 2 other vehicle spots in the same tower. Some people invest in stocks or art. And some prefer parking spaces, I suppose. The most expensive parking space in the world is also located in Hong Kong, which comes as no surprise. In the busy and ritzy financial district, a single 134 square foot parking space sold for $969,000. That's nearly $1 million. After you do the math, that works out to about $7,200 per square foot. If you need a comparison on how ridiculous that is, the average upscale apartment in Manhattan goes for 4 times less at $1,770 per square foot. The parking space is located in the basement parking lot of a 73-story office. It was purchased by Johnny Chung, a Hong Kong tycoon, and sparked quite a bit of conversation about the wealth gap in the city, where 1 in 5 people are below the poverty line. So, there you have it. The most expensive parking spots on Earth. What do you think? Are they worth the price, or is it just a little unnecessary? I mean, can't these guys just invest in a bicycle or something? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Oh, and check out my other social media in the description below. I'm Mr. Luxury. Pip pip to doodly do.